At Thanksgiving dinner, my brother stood up and announced, "Mom and Dad are giving me the house, you were never meant to have a share." My cousins clapped while my mother smirked, "He's always been the responsible one." My heart pounded, but instead of arguing, I smiled and pulled out a folder. "That's cute," I said, "but you might want to read this first." The moment they saw the paper, their laughter stopped. I don't usually post stuff like this, but after what went down at Thanksgiving this year, I can't keep it to myself. I'm still shaking as I type this. This isn't some made-up drama. This happened. It's still happening, honestly. I, 41 female, am the oldest sibling. I've got one brother, Daniel, 38 male. We grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, in the same house our parents have owned for nearly 40 years. It's a beautiful home, big porch, white columns, oak trees in the yard, all of that. But it's also become the center of a massive family mess. Growing up, Daniel was always the golden child. I was the one who followed the rules, helped out with chores, did well in school. But somehow, Daniel could do no wrong. He crashed Dad's car at 17 and they still gave him a new one a year later. Meanwhile, I was paying my own way through college and sending money home when Dad lost his job. I never complained. I just kept my head down and kept working. Fast forward to about 6 years ago. My dad had a stroke. It wasn't major, but it scared him. Scared all of us, really. That's when I sat down with my parents and had the what-if talk. They weren't rich, but the house was paid off, and it was worth a good bit. I asked them what their plans were, what they wanted to happen with the house if something happened to them. At first, they brushed it off. "We're not going anywhere," Dad said. But I kept pushing. I wasn't trying to be greedy. I just wanted to be sure there wouldn't be drama down the road. Eventually, we talked seriously. And to my surprise, they agreed to set up a trust. A legal document. It stated that the house would pass equally to me and Daniel. That was it. No secrets. I even paid for the attorney fees. They signed everything, we got it notarized, done and dusted. Or so I thought. Thanksgiving rolls around this year. Same routine. Cousins, aunts, uncles, big table set up in the dining room. Turkey, stuffing, cranberry sauce. Everything looks normal. I'm sitting near the end of the table, just trying to enjoy the meal. I notice Daniel tapping his fork against his glass. He stands up and says, "Clear as day, I just want to thank everyone for being here. And I also wanted to share something. Mom and Dad have decided to give me the family house." The room goes quiet, then suddenly claps. My Aunt Rose smiles. A couple cousins nod and mutter, "Makes sense." I look over at my mom, and she's got this smug little smile on her face, like she's proud of him. Then she says, "He's always been the responsible one. It just feels right." I swear my stomach dropped. My fork was midair, and I just froze. I didn't say anything right away. I looked at my dad. He looked down at his plate. Nobody looked at me. No one asked me how I felt. No one wondered if I had been told. It was like I didn't exist. Now, here's the thing. I wasn't surprised they pulled something like this. My mom has always played favorites. But I was done letting it slide. So I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. I brought it with me because I had a weird gut feeling something shady was going to happen. I held it up and said, "That's cute. But you all might want to read this first." I passed the folder to Daniel and my mom. They opened it, and suddenly, the energy in the room changed. Inside were copies of the trust papers. Signed. Dated. Notarized. Clearly stating that the house belongs equally to me and Daniel after both our parents pass. No changes allowed unless both of us agree. Daniel's face went pale. My mom's smile faded. My dad looked like he wanted to disappear. "What is this?" Daniel asked, flipping through the pages like maybe he could prove them wrong. It's the trust, I said. We signed it 6 years ago. Remember that? When Dad had his stroke. I told you we needed something official in place. And you both agreed. My mom was still silent. Daniel turned to her and said, "Is this real?" She hesitated and then mumbled, "We didn't think she'd care. She lives out of state. You're here, helping us." Helping them? This man hasn't mowed their lawn in a year. I pay for their groceries every month. I call every week. I even drove down when Dad had a fall last spring and stayed for a week to help. I didn't raise my voice. I just looked at all of them and said, "So you were going to just pretend I didn't exist? You thought you could go behind my back and rewrite things?" And that's where things started to unravel. Cousin stopped clapping. Aunt Rose leaned back and looked away. My uncle muttered something about not his business. Daniel sat back down, still holding the papers, just staring at them. My mom didn't say a word after that. She didn't apologize. She didn't try to explain. I just sat there, cutting my turkey like nothing had happened. They expected me to lose it. They expected yelling, maybe even tears. What they didn't expect was that I came prepared. And I haven't even told them the next part. Daniel didn't say a word for the next few minutes. He just sat there with the folder open in front of him, jaw tight, flipping through the pages like he thought something would change if he stared long enough. The silence around the table was heavy. People were pretending to eat, pretending they weren't eavesdropping. I could feel the tension in the air like static. My cousin Leo, who had just clapped a few minutes ago, was now picking at his mashed potatoes like they'd insulted him personally. Then Daniel finally broke the silence. "This doesn't change anything," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Just because it's on paper doesn't mean it makes sense. You don't even live here anymore." I looked at him calmly. "I don't need to live here to still be your sister. I don't need to live here to be part of this family. And last I checked, I'm still listed as co-owner in a legal trust." Mom chimed in then. "You were always so obsessed with fairness. You act like keeping everything even is more important than what's right. Daniel has always been the one helping us in person." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean the last time he came over was to borrow money? Or was it when he took Dad's pain meds after his surgery?" That hit hard. Daniel slammed his hand on the table. "You don't get to accuse me of that." "I'm not accusing," I said. "I was there. I saw you take them. You thought no one noticed." Some gasps around the table. I think even my dad flinched. Mom snapped, "You're twisting things." "No," I said, keeping my voice level. "I'm done staying quiet while everyone pretends Daniel is some kind of saint. I've kept records. Every grocery bill. Every utility I paid when the lights were about to be shut off. Every emergency trip I took from Atlanta just to get Dad to the hospital because no one else picked up the phone." Then my uncle, quiet, usually neutral Uncle Jim, leaned forward and said, "Wait, you paid the utilities?" I nodded. "Multiple times. I've got the receipts. Want to see those too?" It was like a light flipped. People were looking at me differently now. A few even looked a little ashamed. The whole room had bought into this fake image of Daniel, the golden child, the hometown hero, because that's the version my mom had pushed. And now it was falling apart. But Daniel wasn't done. "You don't get it," he said, his voice shaking now, not from anger but from something else, fear, maybe. "I already told my girlfriend we were moving in here. We even started packing. She quit her lease last week." I blinked. "You what?" "She's pregnant," he muttered. "We need the space." I told her this was happening. Mom and Dad said it was a done deal. Of course. That's why the announcement had felt so rehearsed. This wasn't just a family dinner speech. It was a show. A staged move to pressure me into stepping aside because now there's a baby involved. A classic guilt trip. You used a baby to ambush me? I said. Did you really think that would make me hand over a house I helped protect, helped pay for? No, he said. I thought family would do the right thing. I laughed once. That's funny coming from you. And then my dad finally spoke up. Enough, he said, his voice hoarse. Everyone shut up. The room went dead silent. He looked at Daniel first. You blindsided your sister. You were wrong to do that. You never even asked me. Your mother might have promised something behind my back, but I never agreed. Then he turned to Mom. And you, what were you thinking? You thought you could just ignore everything she's done for us? You think I don't remember who was here when I couldn't walk? Who changed my bandages? My mom didn't respond. She just stared down at her plate like the turkey bones would save her. I'm ashamed, my dad said. Both of you. Daniel looked like he'd been slapped. And then another twist came, because of course it did. Daniel stood up again, fists clenched, shaking, and said, she doesn't even know the whole truth. She thinks she's the hero here? She doesn't even know what Dad really did with the house 2 years ago. That froze me. What are you talking about? He glared at me. Ask him. Ask him what he signed at the bank. I turned to Dad. And that's when he looked at me, not angry, not smug, just tired. I had to take out a second mortgage, he said quietly. Medical bills were drowning us. We didn't tell you because you were already helping too much. But, I started. The house is in the trust. You can't mortgage a trust property, Dad shook his head. The trust was never officially recorded with the county. We signed it, yes. But we never filed it. The lawyer said it was optional. I felt like the ground dropped out beneath me. So, legally, I said slowly. Legally, Daniel interrupted, the house was still in their names. And now? It's collateral. I just sat there, frozen, as Daniel's words sank in. The trust wasn't recorded. Which meant everything I thought was locked in, wasn't. The air felt heavier now. Everyone was quiet, like they were trying to figure out if this was still a Thanksgiving dinner or a courtroom drama. I looked at my dad again. Why didn't you tell me? I would have helped. I was helping. I didn't want you to carry more, he said. You already did enough. But now I might lose everything anyway, I said, voice low. Because some bank could come in and take it if you default. I've been making payments, he said quickly. I haven't missed one. But what happens when you do? I said. Daniel's not going to help. You can barely walk. And now there's a baby involved? My hands were shaking. I had spent years thinking I was protecting something. That I'd put the right things in place. And now I found out the foundation was never even poured. Daniel didn't look smug anymore. He looked angry. Desperate, maybe. She was always your favorite, he spat at our dad. You act like she's some kind of saint, but she left. She went to Atlanta. She never even wanted this place. That's not true, I said quietly. I left because there was no room for me here. You made sure of that. Then another voice cut in. One I hadn't expected. My cousin Tasha, who had been quiet the whole time, said from across the table, you guys don't know everything. Everyone turned toward her. Tasha looked at my mom. Do you want to tell them? Or should I? Mom blinked. What are you talking about? You know exactly what I'm talking about, Tasha said. The letter. The one you sent my dad last year asking him to co-sign a quitclaim deed so you could secretly transfer the house to Daniel. I saw it. He showed it to me because he thought it was shady. The entire table went dead silent again. A quitclaim deed. My jaw tightened. I knew what that meant. You tried to transfer the house out from under the trust? I said, staring at my mother. You tried to make it official without telling anyone? It was just an idea, Mom snapped. It never went through. Because Uncle Dave refused, Tasha added. He said it felt wrong. I looked at Daniel. Did you know about this? He didn't answer, but his face said everything. He knew. He had been in on it from the start. So not only had they kept the mortgage a secret, but they also tried to backdoor the trust by transferring the house without me knowing. That explained everything. The Thanksgiving speech, the baby story, the fake show of inheritance. It was all just pressure. They were hoping I wouldn't fight it. You were going to wait until they passed, I said out loud, not even looking at them now. Then suddenly you find some document, and the house is yours. And no one would ask questions because you were the responsible one. Daniel stood up again, and this time I saw something shift. He looked around the room and realized he wasn't the hero anymore. People were watching him like he was a stranger. He threw his napkin down and stormed out of the room. No apology. No explanation. Just silence. My mom sat there, stiff, eyes fixed on her plate like she was trying to disappear. She didn't follow him. She didn't say anything at all. I looked at my dad one more time. He seemed older than ever. There's still time to make this right, I said, quieter now. But I'm going to protect what's mine. I'm not walking away. I'm not backing down. Then I turned to Tasha. Can you send me a copy of that letter? She nodded immediately. Tasha sent me a photo of the letter that night. There it was, plain as day, my mother's handwriting, asking her brother to help quietly handle the transfer of property so Daniel can step into his rightful place. She even included a line about how my daughter won't fight it, she's too busy with her career to care. I sat on the guest bed that night, reading the words over and over again. They didn't hurt because they were shocking. They hurt because they confirmed everything I had always suspected. The next morning, I asked my parents to meet me in the sunroom. I wanted it all out in the open. No more whispers. No more half-truths. My father came in first, looking worn out. My mother followed, arms crossed, lips tight. You lied, I said simply. You lied to me, and then you tried to lie to everyone else. My mom didn't speak. Dad said, we didn't know what else to do. That's not true, I snapped. You knew. You just didn't want to do the right thing. You wanted me to keep paying bills, showing up when needed, but you never respected me enough to believe I had a stake in this family. Mom's eyes flashed. Daniel needed a home. So did I. I shouted, standing up. But I made mine. I worked for it. I sacrificed things so you could stay in this house. And this is how you repay me? You try to erase me? Dad finally broke. I told her not to send that letter, he said, looking at my mom. I begged her. But she said if we didn't make it easy for Daniel, he'd fall apart. She thought she was protecting him. I wasn't trying to hurt you, my mom said, her voice cracking. I thought you didn't need us. That hit me like a punch. I didn't need your money, I said quietly. But I needed my parents. I needed a family that treated me like I mattered. Instead, I was always second place in a race I didn't even know I was running. Then the door opened. Daniel walked in. His eyes were bloodshot, and he looked like he hadn't slept. He held his phone in his hand, and when he spoke, it was quieter than I'd ever heard him. She left, he said. We all stared at him. My girlfriend. She left. She went back to her parents. Said she didn't want to raise a baby in the middle of lies and lawsuits. Said I wasn't the man she thought I was. For the first time, Daniel looked broken. I thought I was doing the right thing, he said. Taking care of the family. Staying close. I thought that was what made me the one who deserved the house. You never took care of anyone but yourself, I said. He didn't deny it. He sat down across from me. You can have the house, he said. I don't want it anymore. That didn't fix everything. But it was something. The rest of the week passed slowly. My mom barely looked at me. My dad apologized again and again. He admitted they should have filed the trust. He promised to fix it properly now, with real legal help. Not just handshakes and hopes. We went to the lawyer together the next Monday. We updated the documents. Filed them with the county this time. My name and Daniel's, co-owners in the trust. Legally recorded. Not up for debate. Daniel didn't show up. When I asked why, my dad said he was thinking of moving. He needs to figure out who he is without you carrying him, Dad said quietly. As for my mom, she stayed distant. We didn't speak again for a few months. It was my Aunt Rose who called me and said, "You know she's embarrassed, right? Too proud to admit it. But she knows she messed up." Maybe that's true. Maybe not. All I know is, I left Charleston that week with my spine a little straighter. I didn't win. It wasn't a victory. But I didn't lose either. I didn't disappear. I stood my ground, and when everything fell apart, I was still standing. Family can be the sharpest knife in your back. But sometimes, it's also the only place you learn how to survive. I'm not sure what Thanksgiving will look like next year. Maybe quieter. Maybe just me and some friends around a small table. And that's okay. Because I'm done being the forgotten one. I know who I am now. And I won't be erased again.